ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। सर्वं श्रीकृष्णार्पणमस्तु। श्रीकृष्णशरणं मम। Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 27. The chapter is entitled Prayers by Queen Kunti. So the text is, before we read the text, let's sing Jai Radha Madhav. जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी, यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन, यशोदानंदन व्रजजन रंजन, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, यमुना तीरा वनचारी, जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे, जय राधा गोविंद राधा गोविंद, राधा गोविंद श्री राधे Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jaya Panchatattva Jaya Panchatattva Panchatattva Jaya Panchatattva Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nittai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajakacharya Stotri Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय नामाचार्य शिला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय वृंदावन धाम की जय मथुरा धाम की जय जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय तुलसी देवी की जय भक्ति देवी की जय सामवेद भक्त वृंद की जय All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthadaya Vishnu Dev. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthadaya Vishnu Dev. Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Sarvam Shri Krishna Arpanastu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 27. Chapter is entitled Prayers of Queen Kunti. Text 27 is Namo Kinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Namo Kinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Namo Kinchana Vittaya Nivritta Gunavrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Namaha. Word by word, Namaha, all obeisances unto you. Akinchana Vittaya, onto the property of the materially impoverished. Nivritta, completely transcendental to the actions of the material modes. Guna, material modes. Vrittaye, affection. Atma Ramaya, one who is self-satisfied. Shantaya, the most gentle. Kaivalya Pataye, onto the master of the monists. Namaha, bowing down. Translation. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle, and are the master of the monists. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, and others who gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. The Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami was a son of a big zamindar of his time. but they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There is a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone, and this stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked Sanatana for the most valuable thing, and then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Akinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophytes just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. A spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living entity in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents, and there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all product of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy, and thus the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds, which are exhibited even in this material world, are spiritual and without affection for the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental, and one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in the material world, but will go back to Godhead. The material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Gunavritti. The perfect Nivritta Gunavritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from the mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendentally attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate, and therefore he is called Atma Rama, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord, called the Brahmajyoti, but the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. Before we discuss this verse, let me offer the respectful obeisances to Krishna and the Guru Varga. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टम् स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नामश्रेष्ठं मनमपि शचिपुत्रम् अत्र स्वरूपम् रूपं तस्याग्रजं मुरुपुरीं माथुरीं गोष्ठावती राधाकुण्डं गिरिवरं महो राधिका माधवाशं प्राप्तो यस्य प्रतितकृपया श्रीगुरुं तं नतोऽस्मि। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च अदन्तस्तृणं दन्ते इदं याचे पुनः पुनः श्रीमन्रूपपदाम्बोजं धूलिस्यां जन्म जन्मनि। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते। तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। So today we are reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 27. Namo akinchana vittaya nivritta gunavrittaye atma ramaya shantaya kaivalya pataye namaha. My obeisances are unto you who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied and therefore you are the most gentle and master of the monists. This is the prayers of Kunti are wonderful prayers. The 25 prayers that Srimati Kunti Devi has given in these verses in Canto 1, Chapter 8. And this is another wonderful prayer which very nicely describes the qualities of the devotees of Bhagavan, Sri Krishna, and Sri Krishna himself. In order to understand this text 27, we have to also take the text 26 as a basis for the verse, for the understanding of the next verse. So the previous verse was Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribhi Edamana Madapuman Naivarhati Abidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gochara. So the understanding of the previous verse is very important to understand this verse. And what Srimati Kunti Devi is telling in the previous verse is Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribhir Edamana Mada Puman. So if someone is intoxicated by the pride of high parentage, birth in a very prosperous family, Janma, Aishwarya, lot of riches, Shruta, being highly educated, and Shribhi, being very beautiful. So if one is intoxicated by these things, Edamana Mada Puman. So this is like an intoxication of pride. So when that is there, when that intoxication is there, then the intoxication of getting engaged in the chanting of the holy names and surrendering to the Lord does not take place. Naivarhati abidatum vai tvam akinchana gochara. So Srimati Kunti Devi is saying that if someone is puffed up with false pride of lots of wealth, lots of beauty, lots of education, and being born in a high prestige family, if someone is falsely puffed up with false prestige, then such a person cannot render naivarhati abidatum vai tvam akinchana gochara. Such a person cannot render prayers with lot of affection for and love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in such a case, the prayers are covered by the false ego. So when the prayers to the Lord are covered by false ego, then the prayers are not accepted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that re-establishment of the link between the living entity and the Lord, unfortunately, cannot take place in those circumstances. So, therefore, Srimati Kunti Devi says, Tvam akinchana gocharam. So, gocharam. So, this is Krishna, that he is gochara. So, he in the minds of those who are akinchana. So, what does akinchana means? Akinchana is someone who is not being attached to anything material. So, such a personality is akinchana. So Namo Akinchana Vittaya. So that is this verse. Now we can come to this verse where Akinchana Vittaya. So Srimati Kunti Devi is saying that Krishna is the wealth for those who are unattached to the material possessions. So externally as well, I think, and Srila Prabhupada very importantly stresses in the verse about the external detachment as well. Not only internally, but even externally. Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport the example of Srila Sanatan Goswami, who has got a touchstone. Touchstone is Chintamani Prakara Sadmashu, Kalpa Vriksha Lakshavarteshu, Surabhir Vipalayantam, Lakshmi Sahasra Shata Sambrahma Sevemanam Govinda Madipurusham Tamam Bhajami. So it is said that in the spiritual world there is a touchstone which is Chintamani, and all the stones are Chintamani there. So it can give one whatever one desires. So Srila Sanatan Goswami had that touchstone, and even though he had that touchstone, it is said, Srila Prabhupada mentions that he kept it in a refuse place, in a place where it cannot be used. And then when someone asked, why are you doing this? Then Srila Sanatan Goswami actually gave the touchstone of the holy names of the Lord to the person who was asking that touchstone which would give material desires. So this is a transcendental Nama Chintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddho Nitya Mukto Abhinnatvat Nama Namino. This names of the Lord, that is Chintamani. So it's the touchstone. That's the real touchstone. So Srila Sanatan Goswami is giving that example, that what is really a touchstone. It is the holy names of the Lord, Nama Chintamani, and Krishna's name, Krishna, Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So it is said that it is full of consciousness, and it is full of bliss. It is full of that emotional connection towards the Lord. The connection is eternally there. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabonai Shravanadhi Shuddha Chitte Korai Udai. So it is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that this love for Krishna is there in hearts of all the living entities. It is eternally established. So the Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, that is eternally there. That eternally the perfection is there. It is just a matter of uncovering this layers of material accumulation that has covered the living entity since time immemorial, and that is why the holy name is the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this chanting of the holy name uncovers all those material coverings, the layers of innumerable, unlimited layers of covering that has been acquired since time immemorial. So that covering is taken off when the living entity is engaged in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. So therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam, Anandambudivardhanam, Pratipadam Purnamrita Swadanam, Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. This cleansing of the mirror of the mind. So that has to take place. When that takes place, then there is Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. The next activity that happens is the material world is a blazing fire of forest fire. So that is what is stated. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. So it is extinguished when the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare is when this takes place. That cleansing and extinguishing of the forest fire of material existence takes place. Therefore, here in this verse, Srimati Kunti Devi is saying that Namo Akinchana Vittaya. So, Jnana Vijnana Triptatma Kutastho Vijatendriya Yuktityuchyate Yogi Samaloshtra Asma Kanchana. This is said by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, that when one is satisfied with Jnana and Vijnana. So, what is a Jnana? Jnana is the knowledge, the Sambandha Jnana, that I am eternally part and parcel of the Lord. And what is Vijnana? Vijnana is application of that knowledge, and that is Abhideya. So Abhideya is application of the knowledge. So Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojana. Prayojana is when one actually attains that state, Krishna Prema. So Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Nama. So this beautiful prayer is offered by Srila Rupa Goswami to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he is said as the most munificent incarnation of the Lord, Mahavadanyaya. Why? Because Krishna Prema Pradayate. Because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is freely distributing to everyone the highest goal or that can be attained in human form of life, that is Krishna Prema. So he is freely distributing to everyone. And Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than Krishna himself. In the mood and the external complexion. Radha Bhava Dhyuti Suvalitam Navami Krishna Swarupam. So he has got the Bhava and Dhyuti, the mood and the complexion of Srimati Radharani, but actually is Krishna himself. So this Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Nama. Full respectful obeisances to Gauratvisha, one who has come in the golden complexion. This is the Namo Akinchana Vittaya. This is very important. The first sentence there in this verse is very important. That Krishna is the wealth of someone who does not have anything, and therefore Krishna actually mentions in Srimad-Bhagavatam as well, Yasyaham anugrahanami harishye tadhanam shanai tato adhanam tyajasya dukkhitam dukkha dukkhitam. So swajanam tyajasya dukkha dukkhitam. So the yasyaham anugrahanami. So Krishna says that to those who I show my special mercy, harishye tadhanam shanai. So Krishna says that for such a person, I take away their material wealth. So and then when a person is materially impoverished, there is no one. With the relatives have also left that person, and the person has got only to surrender onto the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. So there is a beautiful verse where it says, "Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva, tvameva bandhush cha sakha tvameva, vidya dravinam tvameva, sarvam mama deva deva." This is a very beautiful verse which says that, "O Lord, you are my mother and father. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva. Tvameva bandhush cha sakha tvameva. You are my relatives and you are my friend. Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva. You are my education and you are my wealth. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. And oh my Lord, you are my everything." So this state of this state where a devotee can say that, can surrender totally at the lotus feet of the Lord and be totally attached to the Lord. It is possible by the costless mercy of the Lord. It is his costless mercy that allows the living entity to surrender onto the Lord. But of course, the costless mercy comes when that inclination to render devotional service to the Lord is present in the living entity. So therefore, Krishna says, "Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadhami buddhiyogam tam yena mam upayanti te." So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that those who are constantly tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam. So one who is constantly satata yukta, constantly engaged in linking to me, linking to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna. Satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam, and rendering loving devotional service to the Lord. So priti is very important there. Priti purvakam, with lots of love and affection. Someone is rendering devotional service, bhajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tam. So Krishna says that to such a person I give him the intelligence, the buddhi yoga. So buddhi yoga, nasti buddhir ayuktasya nacha ayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kuta sukham. So there is a word called shantaya. So we'll come to this shantaya word here to understand this particular verse. So nasti buddhir ayuktasya. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that one who is not linking oneself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so the process of linking, that is yukta. Yukta. So when one is engaging in re-establishing the link with the Lord, so that is yukta. So nasti buddhir ayuktasya. So when one is not doing that, ayukta, then that person does not have the buddhi yoga. So that dadami buddhi yogam, nasti buddhir. So such a person does not have that transcendental intelligence. Ayuktasya, nacha yuktasya bhavana. When that link is not established with the Lord, there is no bhavana. There is no feeling for the Lord. How do we have feeling for any person? If you even in a material context, if we see what is the basis of feeling for another person, the basis of feeling is the attraction that we have towards the other person, and that sense of service that we have towards the other person. That whatever be the condition, I like you so much that I want to serve you. So that attraction to the person and that intensity to render some service to the person is what establishes the connection between two people, even in this material world. It is basically those two factors. So similarly, attachment to the Lord is also is in the same way, where one gets attached, gets attracted to the transcendental features, to the transcendental janma karmam cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanmam naiti mameti. So Arjuna, one understands the divinity of the Lord. Venum kanantam aravinda dalaya daksham barhavatam samasitambuda sundarangam kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham govindam adipurusham tamam bhajami. One understands that barhapidam natavaravapu karnayo karnikaram bibhrad vasa kanaka kapisham vaijayanti chamalam bibhrad vasa randran venur adhara sudaya purayan gopa vrindar vrindaranyam swapada ramanam pravishad kita kirti. One gets that loving attachment towards the Lord. That is the basis of performance of devotional service. So Barha Pidam, Barha Pidam Natavara Vapu. That beautiful verse where Krishna is described as coming to the pastures of Vrindavan, to Govardhan, in wearing his peacock feather. So Barha Pidam Natavara Vapu. He's wearing a dress like a drama actor, beautifully decorated dress. Karnayo Karnikaram. So in his ears there is Karnika flowers. Bibrad Vasa. Kanaka Kapisham. So the type of cloth that Krishna is wearing is yellow colored cloth. Vaijayanti Chamalam. In the Vaijayanti flowers, garland Krishna is wearing. Randran Venur Adhara Sudhaya Puryan Gopa Vrindar. So and his with his flute, he's putting in transcendental divine tunes with his flutes. Adhara Sudhaya, through his transcendental lips. Puryan Gopa Vrindar Vrindaranyam Swapada Ramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti. And Krishna and his associates and his coward friends are going into the Vrindavan pastures, and with lots of singing and dancing. This is when we hear about the Lord, and when we get attracted to hearing about the Lord, that is the beginning of the yukta. So nasti buddhir ayuktasya. When bhogaishwarya prasaktanam taya apaharata chetasam vyavasayatmika buddhir samadhau na vidhiyate. This is said by Krishna. So it is same as Janmaishwarya Shruta Shribir. Edamana madapumam naivarhati abhudatum vai tvam akinchana gochara. So it's similar, where Bhogaishwarya Prasaktanam. So when one is attached to the Bhoga and Aishwarya, that when one has got that false ego, thinking that I am doing everything, I have everything, this is mine. So when that I and me, Janasya mohoyam aham mameti. So this aham mameti, when this comes, and that is because of moha. So this attachment to the material nature, when that comes, then this tvam akin, this namo akinchana vittaya, nivritta guna vrittaya. That is the next lines in this verse. Nivritta guna vrittaya. So there is a beautiful verse in Srimad-Bhagavatam which says nivritta tarsair upagiya manat bhavaushadhat shrotra manobhiramat ka uttama shloka gunanuvadat puman virajyeta vina pashugna. So this is said that how Krishna's the engaging in hearing about the Lord and chanting about the Lord is bhava aushadhi. It says that it is bhava is this material world where there is punarapi chananam punarapi maranam punarapi chanani chatare shainam iha sansare bahudustare kripya pare pahi murare. Sri Shankaracharya says in Bhaja Govindam that this material world is an ocean of birth and death. So there is continuous, there is birth, there is death, there is birth, there is death. It's a cycle, continuous cycle. So that is bhava. That is called bhava sagar, ocean of birth and death. So bhava aushadhi. So this bhava shadat shrotra manobhiramat. So nivritta tarsai rupagiya manat. So when one is engaged in hearing about the Lord and chanting about the Lord, then one is coming out of the three modes of material nature. One is going into the transcendental state. Nivritta tarsai rupagiya manat bhaushada. And it is actually a medicine to come out of the cycle of birth and death. Bhava aushadhi. Bhava aushadhi shrotra manobhiramat. And what is it giving? It is giving to the mind the real bliss and the real happiness that the mind is always hankering for. The mind is mana eva manushyanam karanam moksha bandhanai bandhaya vishaya sangha mokshaya nirvishayam mana. So this is said in the scriptures that mind is the cause of bondage and liberation for all the living entities. So when the mind bandhaya vishaya sangha, when the mind is attached to the material objects, it is bandha. It is in a bondage state, and Mokshaya nirvishayam mana. When the mind is detached from material objects, it is in a liberated state. And this is bhavaushada shrotra manobhirama. The mind is involved in that transcendental bliss of Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnum, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. So there's 9 kinds of devotional service that Srila Prahlad Maharaj mentions. So the mind gets engrossed in that, hearing about the Lord. So for all the activities to be perfectly done, the mind has to get involved in it. Otherwise, activities cannot be perfectly done. And therefore, the mind is called Shashtani Indriyani. Mana Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. Mamayavamsho Jiva Luke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Mana Shashtani Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati. So Krishna mentions that all the living entities are my eternal part and parcels. And when the identification with the 5 senses and the mind, which is actually the master of the senses, Indriyani Paranyahur Indriyabhya Param Mana, Yo Manasastu Paro Buddhi, Yo Buddhe Paratastu Sa. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita about how the gradations of our different functionalities are there within the body. And it includes the eternal self, which is the cause of all consciousness. So whatever we are talking, we are hearing, everything is possible because of the presence of the self, the spirit soul. Otherwise, the body is dead without the presence of the spirit soul. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that Arjuna, yes, the senses are very strong. Indriyani parani ahur, but more stronger than the senses is Indriyabhya param mana. The mind is stronger than the senses. Because wherever the mind is, the senses are going in that direction. So Indriyabhya param mana, yo manasastu paro buddhe. And even stronger than the mind is intelligence. Because intelligence is, so we see that Buddhistu Sarathi. So it is said that the example is given about 5 horses. A person who is driving the chariot of 5 horses. So what are the 5 horses? The 5 senses, the 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So eyes, nose, ears, sense of touch, the tongue. So all these are the sense knowledge acquiring senses. So the example given in the Shastras is that the 5 horses are the 5 senses, and the spirit soul is the traveler in that Ratha. It is like the chariot drawn by 5 horses. The spirit soul is a traveler in that. The intelligence is the driver of the chariot, Sarathi. Buddhim tu Sarathi Vidyam. And the reins are the mind. The reins that control the horses is the mind. And so this is the situation where, so therefore the driver is the intelligence. It is so in Indriyabhya param yo manasastu paro buddhi, yo buddhe paratastu sa. So Krishna mentions that even stronger than the intelligence is the spirit soul. Even though the spirit soul is sitting as a passenger in that analogy of the chariot, a passenger in the chariot and the charioteer driving the chariot. But even while sitting as a passenger, the passenger is actually in control, because the passenger is the owner of the whole chariot, and the passenger is directing the driver to go to this place, to go to that place. So therefore the control is always there in the self, and therefore the self-realization is extremely important. When one understands that all these external changes are it's just temporary, so that understanding is extremely important. That sukha dukkhe same kritva labha labha jaya jaya tato yuddhaya yujyasva naivam papam avapsisi, as Krishna says that this happiness and distress, the labha labha. So one can gain sometimes, one can lose sometimes. One can be victorious sometimes, one can get defeated sometimes. It's like a pendulum. This material world is Dvaite Bhadra Abhadra Sakali Saman. Iha Manda, Iha Bhala, Sab Manodharma. So this is said in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami that in this material world, the auspicious and inauspicious is like same thing. Bhadra Abhadra Sakali Saman. So this is good, this is bad. It is all manodharma. It is like a kaivalyam narakayate. So there is another word used here, kaivalya pataya nama. So this leads us to that verse where we can say Prabodhananda Saraswati actually was saying this beautiful prayer in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there he says that kaivalyam narakayate. Here, Prabodhananda Saraswati says that this state of oneness, monism, so sayujya mukti, it is like a hell for the devotees. Why? Because the devotional relationship between the Lord, the reciprocity between the Lord and the devotees cannot unfortunately take place when there is only one. Who is that one going to interact with? No one. So therefore, Prabodhananda Saraswati says, Kaivalyam Narakayate, Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate. He's saying that this heavenly planets is like a phantasmagoria. Tridashapur Akasha Pushpayate. Durdantendre Kala Sarpa Patali Prodkhata Damshrayate. So the senses are like a poisonous, venomous snake that is constantly biting the living entity in terms of getting them involved in this continuous cycle of birth and death. Because when there is material desires, the living entity has to take birth again. It is a vasana, as it is called. So the cause of constant birth and death in the material world is the material desires. That is what is causing the living entity. So here it is said, Durdantendriya Kala Sarpa Patali Prodkhata Damshrayate. So this material hankerings is like a venomous snake, because it is constantly making the living entity to come in a situation where the living entity doesn't feel the natural self. The natural self is happy, will be happy in an eternal spiritual body in relationship with the Lord. That is the natural position of all the living entities, to be in a spiritual body in eternal relationship with the Lord. But unfortunately, because there are material desires, the living entity is taking birth in a material world, and even though the living entity is eternal, the living entity is taking temporary bodies. And every time that body, so it's like a situation where incompatible situation. It is totally an incompatible situation. So the self is eternal and is totally free from all hankerings, whereas the body and the mind has got the material mind especially has got hankerings to satisfy the material body. So this is what is causing the issue in this material world, where the material body, the material mind, the identification with the material manashashtani indriyani prakriti sthani karshati. So this is said in Krishna says that all the living entities are my eternal part and parcels, but when one identifies oneself with mind and the five senses, so mind is called the main sense here, the directing sense, manashashtani indriyani, then the struggle in the material universe starts. Karshati, that is a struggle because of the incompatibility between the real us and who we assume we are. So that is totally incompatible, and because of that, there is this. So the Durdantendriya Kala Sarpa Patali Prodkhata Damshrayate. So therefore, the mind is said to be the uncontrolled mind, which is attached, which is always hankering after lots and lots of material accumulations. That mind is compared to a venomous snake. And Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati says that when yat karunya kataksha vaibhavatam tam gauram eva stuma. So Prabodhananda Saraswati is saying that when there is karunya kataksham from Gaura from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Karunya Kataksha. So that is that costless mercy, the look of costless mercy from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then this venomous snake, which has this 5 fangs, all the venom gets destroyed of the snake, and the snake becomes controlled. So the mind becomes controlled. Yat karunya kataksha vaibhavatam tam gauram evastuma. So to such Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. So this is Kaivalya Pataya Nama. Shantaya, we have discussed about Shanta, where it is Nasti buddhira ayuktasya nachayuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kuta sukham. So when that linking with the Lord is not being established, then there is no taste. That bhava is not there. Bhava grahi janardana. So it is very important. Murkham vadati vishnaya, dhiram vadati vishnave, ubhavto samam punyam, bhava grahi janardana. So this is another beautiful verse in the scriptures where it is said that sometimes someone might mispronounce, like actually it's Om Vishnave Namaha, but sometimes someone might say Om Vishnaya Namaha. Instead of saying Vishnave Namaha, someone would say Vishnaya Namaha, because one does not understand the grammatical constructs of Sanskrit. So, but the verse says that the benefit derived even from chanting in a wrong way is the same. Why? Because bhava grahi janardana. Because Krishna is accepting the emotions, the surrender with which one is chanting his names. So sometimes there could be some mispronunciation, but if the intention and if the surrender is right, then the pronunciation doesn't matter. This is a very important point there. So bhava grahi janardana. What Krishna has got everything. We say bhoktaram yajnatapasam sarvaloka maheswaram suhradam sarvabhutanam yato. So Krishna he does not need anything really, because he is a proprietor of everything. He is andantarastam paramanu chayantarastam Govinda Madhipurusha. He is present in every nucleus. So atom has got nucleus in it, and he is there in the nucleus, and he is there in as a Brahmanda. He is controlling the Brahmanda, the innumerable material universes that are there. Is at highest level he's controlling, and at the macro level and micro level, as they say. So at the macro level he's a controller, and even at the micro level he's a controller. So andantarastam paramanu chayantarastam. So therefore he is not. So this is what Atma Ramaya. So we'll go to the next part now. Atma Ramaya. So this is Krishna. That he does not need anything. He is blissful in himself, and because we are part and parcels of the Lord, we also are in that same kind of category, except that we are minute. So Arjuna addresses Krishna as Param Brahma, Param Dharma, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan, Purusham Shashvatam Divyam Adidevam Ajam Vibhu. So Vibhu. So Krishna is addressed as the greatest of the greatest. So there is, whereas the living entities are very minute, and therefore Srila Prabhupada also mentions in this purport about how the living entity is susceptible to fall down because of that minute position of the living entity, and therefore living entities are called Chuta, whereas Krishna is Achyuta, one who never falls down. So that is Krishna, whereas the living entity have because of that minute condition, if they are not surrendered to the Lord, then Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakar, Yaha Krishna Taha Nahi Maya Rahadikar. They said in Chaitanya Charitamrita that Krishna is like the sun and Maya is like the darkness. So when the sun comes, there is no question of darkness. We can see that, we know that when the morning, in the morning, even if it is cloudy, even if the sky is full of cloud, we still know that it is morning. So this is very evident in the conditions where we are in Ireland, UK, and few other countries where the sunlight is not, we cannot see profusely the sunlight compared to any tropical country like India or some other countries where sunlight is abundantly available. So in these conditions, we see that even when it is full of cloud, we know that it is morning, because the sun has risen. So therefore, and once the sun has risen, even if it is not seen directly, we know that the sun is there. So similarly, when even a little bit of surrender to the Lord is taking place, it need not be total surrender will happen. If that small surrenders are done with full humility, full surrender, and at that moment, at least for a moment, at least for one moment. So the Sakrideva prapanno mam tavasmiti che yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai dadami etad vratam mama. So Sri Ram mentions to Vibhishan, when Vibhishan is surrendering to Sri Ram, then Sri Ram says that even for once, if someone says to me that I am yours, O Lord, tavasmi, I am yours, O Lord, che yachate abhayam sarvada tasmai. So Sri Ram is saying that I gave him fearlessness eternally. This is the costless mercy of the Lord. That surrender, if that one moment of 100% surrender is done, then the Lord says that He guarantees fearlessness for eternity. This is the greatness of the Lord. So this is Atma Ramaya. So Atma Ramaya Shantaya. So this Atma Rama, there is a verse in Srimad-Bhagavatam that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Atma Ramasya Munaya Nigrantapi Urukrame Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim Itham Bhuta Guno Hari. So this verse, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has explained it in 64 different ways in Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is a very beautiful verse which gives the understanding of what Atma Rama is. So one who is self-satisfied, one who does not need anything external to satisfy, that is Atma Rama. So that verse says that Atma Ramascha Munayo Nigranthapi Urukrame Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktim Itham Bhuta Guno Hari. So Krishna is called Hari, and even the people who are self-satisfied, they also involve in devotional service of the Lord, and therefore the Lord is transcendental. There's a lot of examples where we see that the four Kumaras, they were in the state of that Kaivalya, that state of Sayujya kind of in the Jnana Kanda kind of place. But when they smell the lotus, when they smell the tulsi offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, they became the devotees, and then so this is the situation where one this we are saying Atma Ramascha Munya. So even though they did not need anything materially, when they are wanting to render loving devotional service to the Lord. So that means the Lord is transcendental. Lord is transcendental to all the nivritta guna vrittaye. So he is transcendental to all the modes of material nature. Namo akinchana vittaya nivritta guna vrittaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Kaivalya Pataye Nama. So this another example is given of Shukadeva Goswami. So Shukadeva Goswami was totally liberated. He did not. We see that we see in the description that he was not wearing anything as well. So he was, and he did, and it is said in Srimad-Bhagavatam as well that the ladies were never kind of in that state where because the lady understood that he is a liberated personality. They never saw that lust in him. So he was totally transcendental, and even Srila Sukadeva Goswami was talking about Krishna. So this is so all the Atma Ramas, all the people who enjoy, who don't need anything else for their enjoyment. Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochati na Kamshati Samas Sarveshu Bhuteshu Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita that when one is in that's the Brahma Bhuta state, that Kaivalya, that is the state where one doesn't need anything external to be satisfied. The satisfaction is, the internal satisfaction is eternally there in such a person. They don't need anything external. So Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma na Shochati na Kamshati. In that state, there is no hankering, and because there is no hankering, there is no lamentation. Hankering and lamentation are inseparable from one another. Why is that? Because in the mind comes that I want this thing. So there is hankering. And if I don't get it, I'm in a state of lamentation. Okay, if I get it, I'm happy. But how long does that happiness stay? It doesn't stay eternal. So it satisfies for some time, and then after some time, another desire will come up. I want this one more thing, and then we run after that hanker. We might get it, we might not. We don't get it, again lamentation. So this cycle of hankering and lamentation is the state of material bondage. That is the state of material bondage. So in the Brahma Buddha stage, there is no hankering and no lamentation. Samas sarveshu bhuteshu. And in that state, everyone is sarva yonishu yainekam bhavam avyayam ikshate avibhaktam vibhakteshu tadjnanam vidhi satvikam. So Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, what is the understanding in mode of goodness? The understanding in mode of goodness is that even though there are all the different types of living entities are seen, but through the eyes that we see, through the mode of goodness eyes, if we see it, we see that there is only spirit soul there. So Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshina. So a person, a real Pandita, a real person who has knowledge will see different types of living entities. He'll see a learned Brahmana with lots of humility. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne, he'll see Brahmane Gavi, he'll see a cow, he'll see an elephant, Hastini, Shuni, Chaiva Shwapakecha, he'll see a dog eater, he'll see so many different kinds of living entities, but he sees that each and every one is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in that way, even though avibhaktam vibhakteshu, so even though everything is divided, but they are one in the sense that everyone has got the same eternal spirit soul within them, which is eternally part and parcel of the Lord. So this is the Atma Ramaya. Atma Ramasya Munayo Nigranthapi Urukrame Kurvanti Ahetukim Bhaktin. So that costless devotional service. So the Atma Ramas are doing costless devotional service because they don't have any material hankering. The devotional service with cause happens when there is Chaturvidha Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna Artho Jignasur Artharthi Jnani Cha Bharatarshava. So Krishna mentions that Bhagavad Gita that 4 kinds of people surrender to me. One who is Artha, distressed. One who is Jignasu, inquisitive. Artharthi, one who wants wealth. And Jnani, one who is in knowledge. And Krishna says in the next verse, Tesham Jnani Nityuktam Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate Priyo Hi Jnani Atyartham Aham Sacha Mama Priya. And among all the 4, the person in knowledge is very dear to me. We see Yuktit Yuchyate Yogi Samaloshra Asma Kanchana. So when one has got that Sambandha and Abhideya, then one is in a state where one is not, so that's a very high state. It is the highest state where one is Yuktit Yuchyate Yogi Samalostra Asma Kanchana, where one sees a pebble, one sees a stone, and one sees gold, and everything is same for such a person. That is the highest state. Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. That is Srila Prabhupada mentions here. That such a person is a Mahatma, the greatest soul. Where Bahunam Janmanamante Gyanvan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, a person Gyanvan, a person in knowledge, surrenders to me. Mam Prapadyate. And Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And then such a person says that everything is Lord's. So there is no distinction. If everything is Lord's, what's the distinction between a stone and gold? There is no distinction. So such is the view of such a great personality. And therefore, Krishna is the wealth of those great personalities. Namo Akinchana Vittaya. So this is Nivritta Gunavrittaya. The other qualities of such a person is they are transcendental to the modes of material nature. The modes would come and go, but they are always situated on the higher state of thinking about the Lord. Atma Ramaya. How they are Nivritta Gunavrittaya? Because they are Atma Ramaya. Because they are Shantaya. And because they have surrendered onto the Kaivalya Pate. They have surrendered to Mukunda. Mukti Dadati Karichit Smana Bhakti Yogam. So it is said that Narada Muni says that Krishna can sometimes give liberation, but he rarely gives devotional service. Bhaktya tu ananya shakya hameva vido arjuna gyatvam drishtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yaschasmi tatvata tato mam tatvato gyata vishate tadanantara. So, this is the bhakti tvai bhagavata bhagwan yadi syat daivena na phalati divya kishora murti mukti swayam muklitanjali sevate asman dharmartha kamagataya samaya pratiksha. So Bilva Mangala Thakur says that the Mukti Devi herself is standing in front of such a person who is in that state where one sees that everything is Krishna's energy, and therefore there is no difference between anything in that way. So that not in the monistic way of everything is one, but in the way that everything is energy of Krishna. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina mat sthani sarva bhutani na chaham teshu avasthita. Aham evasam evagre nanyad rite artham yad pratiyata na pratiyata chatmani tad vidyad atmano mayam yatha bhaso yatatama. So Krishna mentions that in that Chatushloki Bhagavatam that everything is in that way. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam bhuta bhava samanvita. That linking with the Lord, that emotional attachment to the Lord, can happen when one understands that everything is Lord's. So when one says Tavasmiti Chayachate, I am yours, O Lord. Everything is yours, Lord, and I am surrendered to you. Just like how Bali Maharaj epitomized that in his Atma Nivedana. So even though he knew that Vamanadev is going to take everything from him, he was ready to give everything to Vamanadev. So in that state, so in terms of the takeaway, there's another wonderful verse. Every place in Srimad-Bhagavatam is nectar, and this is another great nectar. Namo Akinchana Vittaya. So the main takeaways is Akinchana Vittaya, that Krishna is the wealth of someone who is detached from the material world, and Krishna is Nivritta Gunavrittaya. Because Krishna is transcendental, anyone rendering devotional service to Krishna with full surrender also reaches that transcendental state. Because Krishna is Atma Rama, he doesn't need anything external. Therefore, the living entities being part and parcel is also Atma Rama. The living entity is Shantaya, Kaivalya Pataya Nama. And Krishna is the Kaivalya Pati. Therefore, the living entity can have relationship with the Lord. So this is in short, this is the discussion that we had. Thank you very much for allowing me to do this service. I see one comment here. Pavani Mataji and Anandhari Prabhu, Hare Krishna. When the intelligence and mind is directing the self in wrong direction and the self is in sleeping condition, are there practical steps that can be taken to begin to redirect them, or should we depend only on waking the soul through devotional service? Thank you very much, Prabhu, for the question. The devotional service is itself the practical step that you mentioned there. So there's this pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartum avyayam raja vidya raja guhyam pavitram idam uttamam pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartum avyayam. So this is Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that this is the king of all knowledge. So devotional service is the king of all knowledge, and it is the most secret, the topmost secret. Raja Guhyam. There is no greater secret than this. And Pavitram. It is totally pure. Idam Uttamam. Udgata Tamam. So it helps one to reach the transcendental state. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam. And pratyaksha, it can be practically seen. So when someone is involved in devotional service, one can practically see that the knowledge and renunciation is already there. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chaya Dahaitukam. So so it is said in Srimad-Bhagavatam that when one is engaged in the devotional service of Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, Sri Krishna, Bhakti Yoga Prayojita, with full of devotional service, Janati Ashu Vairagyam. So this Vairagyam or the renunciation automatically comes immediately. And Jnanam Chaya Dahaitukam. and the transcendental knowledge is also ahaitukam, without any cost. So this the practical step is actually the devotional service. There is no other practical step. This Harer Nama Harer Namaiva Kevalam Kalau Nasteva Gatiranyata. Especially in this age of Kali, it is said that there is no other way, no other way, no other way. 3 times it is said. So it is the most practical way of self-realization, especially in this age of Kali Yuga. There is Kalir Dosha Nidhe Rajan Hiyasti Eko Mahad Gunan Kirtanad Eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Vrajet. So this Shri Sukadeva Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj that this age of Kali is full of impurities, Dosha Nidhe Rajan. So there is a treasure of impurities. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami says that. But there is one great quality in this age. He is the Eko Mahad Gunan Kirtana Deva Krishnasya. Just by singing the glories of the Lord, Mukta Sangha, one becomes free from all material attachments, and Param Vrajet, one reaches a transcendental state. So Prabhu, I think it is totally evident that the only practical step is devotional service. That is even Klesho Adhikaras Tesham Avyakta Sakta Chetasam Avyakto hi Gatir Dukham Dehavadbhiravapyate. So the other way, probably like meditation or this monastic way of that's called so-called practical. Krishna himself says that it is very difficult. Klesha it's very difficult for a person who has body to do the avyakta chetasa, to go into that impersonal meditation. It is very difficult because in the material world we have body, and the monists or the impersonalists think that in the spiritual world there is no body, because Srila Prabhupada also mentions many times in his purports that they think that this because the material body is full of there are so many problems. This adhyatmik, adi bhautik, adi daivik, all these different types of miseries that are miseries from our own body, miseries from other people, miseries from natural calamities, everything. Because so the impersonalist is so much fed up with the body that they want impersonalism. But the devotees know that there is spiritual body, and in that spiritual body, the spiritual relationship with the Lord can be established in the transcendental realm. So that the devotee knows, and therefore the devotional service is the only. Krishna himself says, Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yumam samay yukta tamomata. Krishna says among all the yogis, so there is karma yogi, there is jnana yogi, and that there is this bhakti yoga is the highest. So Yoginam api sarvesham madgaten antaratmana. So one whose mind is totally absorbed in the Lord. Shraddhavan bhajate yumam, and one is rendering loving devotional service with total faith to the Lord. Samay yukta tamomata. Among all the yogis, I consider that person to be the topmost. So Prabhu, yes, I think the practical step is Harer Namaiva Kevalam. It's the loving, it's the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Iti Shodashaka Namnam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam Nata Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. So that is said in Kali Santarana Upanishad that there's 32 syllables, 16 names of the Lord is the only the Shodashaka Namnam Kali Kalmasha Nashanam, destroys all the sins in this age of Kali. Nata Parataropaya Sarva Vedeshu. There is no other upaya. Upaya is solution. There is no other solution. Looking at the Vedas, all the Vedas, there's no other solution. This is the only practical solution. Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm just saying thank you for the amazing discourse. We really enjoy how you're able to bring many points strengthened with Shastra. Could you please share how you study or meditate on the verses to help understand the meaning? Yes, Prabhu, thank you very much for your question. It's the costless mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Sri Krishna that whatever is possible, like I'm just So Krishna says to Arjuna that nimitta matram bhava savyasachi. You become my instrument. So somehow or the other, just trying to become an instrument. Or even though I personally I do feel that probably I'm not even in a place where I can become an instrument of the Lord. It is such a high position to become an instrument of the Lord. But maybe there is a little that costless mercy is helping to become an instrument of the Lord. That is the only I think it's not as I mentioned in this discussion as well, that the Sanskrit at all is not important. So this in Bhaja Govindam also, the beginning of Bhaja Govindam is the same. Shankaracharya is seeing an old Brahmin who is trying to learn Sanskrit grammar. He's repeating the Sanskrit grammar so that he can learn it. And then Shankaracharya sees that old Brahmin, and he goes and he says to him, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Modamate. So worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda. Modamate is actually saying that the mind, the intelligence is in a foolish state. That's why you're doing this. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukran karne. He's saying that at the time of death, all this learning of Sanskrit grammar is not going to help. So the only thing that is going to help is whether one will be able to remember the Lord at the time of death. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajati ante kalevaram tam tam ivati konte sada sadbhava tadbhava bhavita. Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati sammadbhavam yati nasti atra samshaya. So when one can think about the Lord. So that is the most important thing. But in terms of how study or meditate, it's basically going word by word. The translation, the transliteration that Srila Prabhupada has provided, that is very helpful. So each word and how that word is used in some other verse and linking the two. So that is the way I try and understand, and that helps a lot in terms of keeping the mind engrossed in the scriptures, because originally it is coming in those words, and when it is translated, because it is two different languages, the meaning sometimes is not exactly there. So if somehow or other, if we can, but because these transliterations are there, it helps so much in terms of understanding what is the meaning of each and every word. And when we can try and understand the meaning of each and every word and understand how that word is used in some other place and how that link is taking place in different shastras, that helps a lot in terms of studying the verses. And then just whenever there is some time, just thinking about those words, what does that word mean, and how that word is such a transcendental, that helps us in inculcating in reaching the transcendental state, because each and every word in Srimad-Bhagavatam is transcendental. So, and each and every word for each and every word one can eternally speak. In Srimad-Bhagavatam, there is such a 12 cantos, so many verses, 18,000 verses, and each word in a verse can be eternally spoken. There's so much transcendental literature. So somehow or other, if we can get that inclination to engage in understanding those words, I think that will help a lot. Thank you very much, Anandari Prabhu and Pavani Mataji. I don't see any other questions here. So, thank you very much. Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the simple devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Shri Namaste Saraswati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanastu. Hare Krishna.